Bravo bosses. This is the Bravo Investigator podcast. I'm your host, Dana. And today, on an all new episode of Be True Hollywood Story, we are talking about Ashley Iaconetti from the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. This episode is audio and video. You can download it wherever you get your podcasts, and you can watch the episode on my YouTube channel, which is linked in the show notes. Let's get into it. So, welcome to an all new episode of Be True Hollywood Story. I am Dana, and I'm here to give it to you today. So, for those of you who are not familiar with Be True Hollywood Story, totally fair. I have not been doing as many of them as I used to. It is a limited series that I am doing here on the podcast, which basically tells you the story of your favorite Bravoleb from birth to scandal to stardom and everything in between. Be True Hollywood Story will basically tell you how your favorite Bravoleb got to where they are today. So I have done, oh my gosh, Kristen Doty, Stassi Schroeder. The last one I did was Kyle Cook. I did Shep Rose. I did Denise Richards. So there's been some really very interesting ones that involve like legal matters and criminal matters and all of that kind of stuff. So those have been really fun. Then when I heard that Ashley Iaconetti, who you may know as Ashley I from Bachelor Nation, was going to be part of the Bravo family, I was like, okay, I have to do an episode on this. But even that being said, I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to have time because I'm working full time now. I'm training every day this week. So I'm actually recording this on Sunday. Hi from the future, from the past. I'm training every day this week in office from 9 to 5. And then I have to go pick up my dog from daycare. I'm not going to get home till like 7. So it's a very busy week ahead for me. There's also the premiere of The Valley this week. There's also Summer House this week. So there's lots of other stuff going on. And when I typically do these episodes of Be True Hollywood Story, they take me a full week full time. No joke. Like, I try to do as much research as possible so that you guys can't come for me and try to make sure that I know absolutely everything there is to know about this person that I can find. I read every book that they've ever written. I've listened to every podcast that they've ever been on. I watch every show that they've ever been on. So just to make sure that I have every last detail. And it typically takes a long time. But for this one, I was able to skip through a lot of the Bachelor stuff. I did, I was a Bachelor girly. Let me start there. I was a Bachelor girly way back in the day. I used to watch it from the beginning. And, it's funny because we've obviously been talking a lot lately about Taylor Frankie Paul. And I will be giving you guys Ashley Iaconetti's opinions on the Taylor Frankie Paul of it all. But with us talking about that recently, it sort of fits very well into a discussion on somebody who used to be from this franchise. And, like I said, this was a show that I really enjoyed. It was not a show I ever really saw as like, oh, aspirational. This is how you can meet someone. But at the same time, I would always sort of look at it in a way where sometimes there would be a lot of women closer to my age at the time, like maybe a decade ago. And I'd be like, oh, wow, if those women who are so beautiful and are so cool and have these amazing careers haven't found someone yet, I guess there's still hope for me. And so that's kind of why I would watch The Bachelor, I guess, sometimes to just sort of feel maybe that sense of hope. Also, I really enjoyed like the girl drama. And then I loved all the spinoffs, like all of them. Bachelor in Paradise, Bachelor Pad, Bachelor Winter Games. Yes, there was a Bachelor Winter Games, which we are going to talk about today. But, Bachelor Nation was sort of like the pre-Bravo community, if you think about it. Like the way Bachelor Nation used to work and probably still does is once you're in Bachelor Nation, you're sort of in for life and you will sort of have friends for life. You just automatically have this kinship with these people who have been through the same thing, whether you've met them before, whether you've been on their season or not. And so that's how this show has sort of always worked. But in more recent years, definitely the last 5, probably ever since Chris Harrison got fired, and we remember that happened because there was a situation that he was speaking about with Rachel Lindsay I think it may have been on a podcast or on some news outlet where they were speaking together about Rachel Kirkconnell and Matt James, and how Rachel Kirkconnell had taken a photo with a Confederate flag and how people were reacting to it. And Chris Harrison did not react well. So he ended up being fired, and things just changed after that. New host. I don't even want to blame it on that, because it really took a nosedive many years prior, because there really was no new format. There was nothing new and different about it. It just sort of became like the same old thing. And I haven't watched in years, quite frankly. I was going to watch the Taylor Frankie Paul season. Who knows if that will ever even come out? And I think the entire franchise might be dead in the water. It's something that a lot of people are talking about right now, especially because a lot of people started their careers in podcasting, in other media forums via The Bachelor, and they've maybe expanded into other things. But people are sort of looking at this franchise as dead in the water, and how Taylor Frankie Paul was supposed to be there to revive it, but that's not going to happen. And there are so many other shows that have taken its place. Love Island, Love is Blind, that are just really like filling people's cup, I guess, in like a different kind of way that The Bachelor no longer is. So who really knows what's to come when we speak of The Bachelor? Only time will tell, I guess. And I feel like we'll even know more in the coming weeks, given that they've only recently pulled The Bachelorette. But even still, let's get back to the Bravo sphere of it all. And there has been a lot of crossover between Bachelor people and Bravo people. For example, a lot of the Valley people are friends with a lot of the Bachelor people, like Rachel Recchia, who's the pilot, who was recently on Perfect Match. Jen, is her name Jen? Jen with a G, Jen Parisi. All of those people are really close with like Zach Wickham and Brittany Cartwright. So they spend a lot of time, they used to spend a lot of time at Jax's, and they used to hang out in LA together. But because they're sort of all from the same world, and now because a lot of these shows are doing crossovers with things like Perfect Match, a lot of the reality TV stars who basically live in the same area end up congregating. So Bravo was obviously looking for a new franchise to land on, especially after we were trying to figure out what in the world to do with the Real Housewives of New Jersey. And they landed on the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. Now, I know absolutely nothing about Rhode Island, but I told myself, you know what? The only thing you do know about Rhode Island is that that is where Ashley I lives. Now, I'm going to go back and forth between referring to her as Ashley Iaconetti and Ashley I. For the sake of Bachelor purposes, she was known as Ashley I, because when she appeared for the first time on our screens, there was another Ashley. There was an Ashley S. So she became Ashley I, basically. But when I heard that they were doing Rhode Island, I'm like, how interesting would it be to do a crossover from someone from Bachelor Nation and bring them over to Bravo? It's never been done before. And it's something that we always talk about in terms of like within the Bravo sphere. We'll be like, should Lindsay Hubbard go over to Roni? Or what's another franchise you would go to? It's never happened, never successfully. We did have Taylor Armstrong go from Beverly Hills to OC. That was a flop. I feel like we had one other that didn't really stick the landing, but it's never really happened very often, albeit successfully. This idea, I think, was sort of brilliant because, like I said, these people have such crossovers with each other. They know how to do reality TV already, so why not? I wondered if maybe she was too young for this. When we first saw her, she was 24 years old, but that was a really long time ago. That was when she was on The Bachelor season 19, which I believe was in 2015, so a very long time ago. But I thought, how interesting would that be? Because if you know Ashley I, and you may not, but you will after today, you will know that this girl is extremely emotional and dramatic. Now, before we get into the Ashley I of it all, I want to just start with a very quick cast rundown for the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. Now, I don't typically do this on episodes of Be True Hollywood Story. It typically is just about the one person that we're talking about. But because this show is new to us and it is airing tonight being Thursday, hello from the past. I just thought it would make sense to just kind of do a quick rundown on who these ladies are. So We have Alicia Carmody, and I'm just going to read you guys their bios from the Bravo TV website. So it says Alicia Carmody is kickstarting her boss babe era. Ew, do we really say boss babe anymore? I wonder who wrote the copy for this. Anyways, pushing her way into her fiance Billy's popular restaurant, Pizza Mama. That sort of reminds me of Baby Mama, like from The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. A proud self-described flip-flopper. Oh no, a Sheena? Actually, that's a great idea. A great idea to have a Sheena, don't you guys think? Alicia might call you a hora 1 minute and pull you into a hug the next. When Alicia opens the vault on her past, she is faced with navigating long-standing relationships and personal growth that leaves one lifelong friend completely blindsided. Okay, well, she sounds interesting. I like the idea that she has a lifelong friend. I don't like the idea that anyone's being blindsided, but I like the idea that there are people on this show that have real, true friendships and relationships. That's a good thing. Okay, then we have Rosie DeMare. Her bio says former Rhode Island television news anchor Rosie DeMare and her husband Rich are leveling up, trading their cozy over the garage apartment for a sprawling dream home. As Rosie focuses on growing her local lifestyle program, she also faces challenges within her inner circle, leaving her to reassess loyalties and where she truly fits with this evolving close-knit group. That sounds like a lot of nothing. So I'm not sure what we'll get from her, but I like the idea that she's a television news anchor because it means that she knows how to like think on her feet. So that's something. They also talk about Ashley I. We're going to get into her in more detail, but her Bravo bio says, fresh from finding her Prince Charming on television, influencer and former The Bachelor personality Ashley Iaconetti quickly learns that life after I Do isn't as blissful as she imagined. Between raising two young children, adjusting to life in Rhode Island, and co-owning a struggling cafe with her husband Jared, Ashley's loyalties are tested when Rosie claims she never has her back. Okay, that sounds like typical housewife drama, and that sounds fine to me. Okay, Liz McGraw. It says Rhode Island's cannabis queen. Ooh, cannabis queen. Is that better than like a money queen? I'll take a cannabis queen over a money queen for sure. Rhode Island's cannabis queen, Liz McGraw, isn't just running one of the country's most successful dispensaries. She's also the person to know in the smallest state in the union. When she and her husband Jerry learned they're about to become grandparents, Liz makes one thing clear. She will not be trading couture for a rocking chair. As she prepares for a new chapter in her family, shifting dynamics within her inner circle test her influence and the bonds she's long held close. Now, I did see some tea come out about her today. I'm just starting to recognize these names. So I read that cannabis queen Liz McGraw reportedly has 1,000 plus documented calls with Dino Guimet, who is currently facing 7 felony drug charges, including manufacturing and distribution. Guimet is also alleged to have ties in the New England mafia. Great. So we've got some mafia connections here. I think that's fab for this show, right? Oh, and I also found out that Alicia Carmody, who was the first person we talked about, she donated $565. That's it? Okay, to Trump's campaign. This was supposed to be big news. She donated money to Trump's campaign. For some reason, it's only $565. But this is some of the tea that's coming out about these people pre-show. And then we have Rula Neme Pontarelli. Grounded in tradition and guided by faith, Rula Nem Pontarelli puts family above all else. Proud of her Lebanese roots, she brings deeply held values into the group, especially when it comes to marriage. When rumors about her husband begin to circulate, Rula is forced to confront uncomfortable questions that challenge her beliefs, resilience, and commitment, putting her personal life under an unrelenting spotlight. And then we have Kelsey Swanson. Kelsey Swanson has lived a charmed life as a beauty queen. Ooh, I love a beauty queen on a housewife show. Playing house in a castle owned by her wealthy boyfriend. Now at a crossroads, Kelsey must decide between the comfort of her gilded arrangement and a future on her own terms. When her loyalty to Liz is tested, Kelsey worries about going up against the group's heaviest hitter and losing her greatest cheerleader. This is really reminding me of the Valley Persian style and Sky and Tannen, because they were like these long-standing friends who it seems like the show put their relationship to the test or sort of brought the issues out that were already there. Then we have Jo Ellen Tiberi. Jo Ellen Tiberi may not be known for cooking dinner, okay, but she's never short on spilling tea. That's an okay like tagline if they're ever going to use one. Anyway, When sensitive information involving Rula's marriage circulates within the group, Joellen finds herself caught between honesty and discretion. Unresolved issues with her mother resurfaces, forcing her to confront long-buried childhood wounds and reckon with her personal cost of always being the one who tells it like it is. That's interesting to me. I also have childhood wounds and mother issues. Oh, and then our beloved Dolores Catania. A friend and familiar face, Dolores Catania leaves the Jersey Shore behind to spend the summer in Rhode Island with her close friend Liz McGraw. Okay, so that's her connection here. Because I was wondering, also like Ashley I is like significantly younger than her, so I was wondering even some of these people in the same friend group seems odd. Together, the two embark on a new entrepreneurial venture, a menopause gummy brand, while soaking up some sun, fun, and a little drama along the way. Okay, I love how they're integrating Dolores. I think that sounds so fun, and it sounds like a lot more organic and natural than I was anticipating that it would be. Okay, lovely. Let's get into it, and let's start with chapter 1, early life. Okay, Ashley was born, Ashley Nicole Iaconetti, on March 6, 1988. She was born in Great Falls, Virginia. Now, she is from Virginia, but she's actually lived in many different places. She has lived in New Jersey, Massachusetts, New York, California, and now Rhode Island, which we will get into. She's enjoyed them all. She is Italian on her father's side and Lithuanian on her mother's side. She has one younger sister, Lauren Iaconetti, who is a hairstylist and the host of the I Don't Get It podcast. We'll talk about that podcast a little bit later, but it's a podcast that I'm not sure if it's still running, but it is Ashley, Lauren, and one of their ex-Bachelor producers, Naz Perez. Now, Lauren recently got married. Well, she recently had a baby. She is married and recently welcomed a baby, which is Ashley's first nephew. So she writes on Instagram, we're moms now. Meet my sweet baby nephew, Rockwell Rocky, Callum McFadden. I can't wait to raise these boys together. Things are about to get wild. He was born to This I Promise You playing, which is so Ashley. Even though this isn't Ashley's baby, like once you get to know Ashley, Ashley is a boy band enthusiast, and we'll talk about that in a second. But while we're talking about Lauren's an interesting character. We actually get to know Lauren kind of a bit on the Bachelor franchise because she ends up joining Ashley on one of her seasons of Bachelor in Paradise, which we will talk about. But there's a big difference between like Ashley and her sister. Ashley was a virgin up until some recent years, and we'll get into when that happened. Sorry to keep kind of going back and forth, but the Ashley that we sort of know going in is a virgin. Lauren is not. Lauren sort of portrays herself as like the sluttier version of Ashley, and I don't say that to be offensive whatsoever. It is something that she has said about herself. Now, there are allegations out there that Lauren allegedly once hooked up with Chris Soules, who is the Bachelor that Ashley went on the season of. I do not have any more details about this, but this is just like a rumor that this allegedly happened. It's very interesting to hear that Lauren is married and has a baby now, because the Lauren that we last saw, especially on Bachelor in Paradise, was basically in like an affair, I guess. She called herself a mistress, which is weird to call yourself that in like a flattering term. You know, Lala definitely didn't like to be called a mistress. And so I was surprised that this is something that she enjoyed being called. But apparently it was more so that she was dating a guy who had a girlfriend. He wasn't even married. He just had a girlfriend. And she decided to go on Bachelor in Paradise anyways, and then ends up like crying and leaving because of him and stuff. So Lauren had always given me sort of like the, you know, I'm not going to settle down kind of vibes, and always going for the wrong guy type of thing. But, you know, good for her. And I'm really happy for her that she's, you know, happily married and has a baby. That's amazing. So Ashley went to Langley High School, and then she went to James Madison University, and she graduated with a degree in media arts and design. She also has a master's degree in broadcast and digital journalism from Syracuse University. So a lot of people do think that Ashley is an idiot, especially the way that she sometimes comes off when she's crying, or sometimes, I guess the way that she speaks on occasion, but she actually isn't. She's extremely intelligent. And it's interesting that she has a degree in something very much related to this. So one thing about Ashley that's very, I would say, a little bit different than maybe some of her predecessors or the people that have come ever since in reality TV is she has really found a way to cement herself within this space. for over a decade now, which is quite impressive because, reality TV stars come and go. Think about all of these Love is Blind people whose names we'll never remember again. But Ashley has found a way to maintain herself in this space year after year after year and maintain popularity as well. And I think a big part of that probably has to do with her background in the field of media, right? So I think she actually kind of knows. She wasn't one of those people who was just like, oh, I appeared on The Bachelor and oh, now suddenly I've become an influencer. Oh, how cool that I've gone viral and all these things just happened to me. Like she probably knows how to do that kind of work because she came from a journalism background. And if you see her little tagline on The Bachelor, it says freelance journalist. Um, a funny thing about Ashley, I'm just going to go through some of the little quirks about her, is that when she really likes you or she's excited about you, she grabs your face when she gets really excited. Her favorite music is Hanson. That's her favorite band. And boy band music is sort of her favorite thing. She also loves tacos, crop tops, and she has gone to over 20 Jonas Brothers concerts. Her favorite movie is Titanic. She is 5'5". And yeah, she's basically a basic bitch, right? I mean, there's sort of no other way to explain Ashley as opposed to just being a basic bitch, which is fine, right? I feel like we all have a lot of that within us. There's nothing wrong about it. She's just like a very like basic regular girl, but she is a girl who knows her football. And she even used to write her own Jets Insider blog. So I'm going to read you guys this blog. It's from December 23rd, 2013 by Ashley Iaconetti. Game recap: Homebodies, Jets beats Brown 24-13. East Rutherford, New Jersey. The Jets won't be in the playoff, but they've certainly distanced themselves from the very bottom of ESPN's power rankings. After today's 24-13 win over the Cleveland Browns 4-11 at home gives the Jets a chance to finish 500. The Jets finished their 2013 with a 6-2 record at home. If the Jets finish at that point, the decision to fire Rex sitting on the shoulders of Woody Johnson and John Itzkick will start to feel heavier. This is the third consecutive year the Jets haven't made the playoffs, coming off of two consecutive AFC championship appearances. He mentioned potentially being on the chopping block during one of last night's meetings. It was motivational. The players' coach asked the players to help him out. Today was a good day for the struggling rookies. The Geno Smith, who we hadn't even seen since week 5, he threw for 214 yards and completed 20 of his 36 pass attempts. You've seen glimmers of growth over the past 3 games, but today it culminated. It was the first game in the last 6 games Smith didn't throw an interception. He was accounted for all 3 Jets touchdowns. Smith did this under the pressure of a solid defense, who's recently made other quarterbacks like Brady, Breeze, and Kaepernick look rough. The offense picked up the second quarter. They converted 12 of 13 downs, which was the highest conversion rate of the season. D. Milliner did it for everyone. He got his first career interception. Milliner slowed down the league's hottest receiver, Josh Gordon, who was targeted 16 times and only caught 6. Gordon dropped 3 passes, 2 of which were in the end zone. Interestingly, camaraderie wasn't assigned to him. The rookie safety defended 5 passes and led the team with 9 tackles. For safeties, confidence is key, and based on his game, it looks like he could be elevating. David Nelson, who was with the Browns this past preseason, got his first touchdown as a Jet today and decided to make that 2. It was the first time in his career and scored 2 touchdowns in a game. He had 4 catches for 33 yards. The Jets often gained 422 total yards on the day, marking their second game of the season in which they have broken the 400-yard plateau. Their last 400-plus game was against Buffalo on September 22nd. The offensive line was phenomenal. They helped pave the way for an awesome run day. Chris Ivory, always easy to spot from the press box because of his long dreads, had 109 yards, 5.5 yards per carry. Bilal Powell had some explosive long runs. He went for 54 yards and 7.7 yards per carry. The run game was able to perform well against the Browns, who have had a top 10 run defense. The O-line kept a clean pocket for Geno and prevented him from getting sacked. It's not as if the Browns struggled at sacking the QB. They had 39 total sacks going into this game. The defense was true to form. They only allowed 283 total yards and 13 points. They turned 2 potential Brown touchdowns into field goals. They had 3 sacks and 2 picks. There was only 1 hiccup. 43 of the 109 running yards came from 3 carries from non-running backs. 1 long run came from Josh Gordon. The other came from Jason Campbell. Pretty good. Pretty good writing, in my opinion. I don't know what most of that means because I am not a football girly, but here we go. So we first see Ashley Iaconetti on The Bachelor season 19. So we are moving into chapter 2, which is The Bachelor season 19, Chris Soules season. So Chris Soules was the farmer bachelor. He was the one who lived in Iowa. And when I went back to watch a few episodes of this just to gauge what I needed to gauge to understand everything there is to know about Ashley I can't believe there was any women who were into this guy. Not that he isn't hot. He's very hot, but like he wanted someone who would come and live the farming life with him in Iowa. And he really lived in a very like it wasn't a populated part of Iowa. I was just really surprised that there were so many women who were considering this lifestyle because that's what it is, right? Same with Taylor Frankie Paul. If you were going to go on The Bachelor this season, it was understood that you would have to move to Utah because she had two baby daddies in Utah and couldn't leave. So he had this business, he had, his farming business in Iowa. And so any girl that was going to be with him would have to move there. So yeah, there was that. So Ashley comes in, hot and heavy. She wins the first group date challenge, which is basically riding tractors in your bathing suit, which is disgusting. I feel like, and this is through downtown LA. Okay. So this is like their first group date on Bachelor. And one thing I did really like about her is that, she knew that there was a lot of competition, but she really did try to differentiate herself, and she really tried at each of the challenges. You would think, or challenges, what did they used to call them? These group date challenges, right? That's different terminology that we use now when it comes to Love Island. But when I think of like all of those challenges, you would think that someone like Ashley I wouldn't be into that because, okay, let me backtrack a little bit and give you a little bit about who Ashley I presents herself to be. Like I said, somebody who likes boy bands, very basic bitch type of personality, but also just very emotional. She kind of looks like a Kardashian and tries to emulate her look off of that. So long, dark hair, big, thick eyelashes. And she definitely looks like someone who very much cares about her appearance. She wears a lot of makeup. The makeup looks amazing, and she's very good at doing her makeup. And I think that her fashion is out of this world. I think that she always dresses really amazing. I think that her style is really on point, and I think she's absolutely one of the most beautiful women that I've ever seen. But looking at her, I would sort of peg her as the kind of person who wouldn't really enjoy getting down and dirty or doing things that would sort of mess up her look, right? But when it came to The Bachelor, she did really work hard. But yeah, how gross is it to ride a tractor in your bathing suit downtown LA? Like disgusting. But anyways, she does win that, but he ends up giving the date rose that day to Mackenzie. So then we see the beginning of what we know of Ashley being an ugly crier. And when I say ugly crier, like you guys don't really understand how much this girl is able to contort her face to really make it seem way more dramatic than something else. Like her ugly crying, and that's why I guess I'm doing this on video today, is to really just show you guys like how bad it is. It's like ugly crying and then turning it into laughter, I guess, to try to make it go away. So I'm going to do my best rendition. I haven't practiced this at all, so bear with me, okay? So it's just kind of like this. It's like seriously, it's something like that. Or then she gets sort of like evil in the face and cackles. It's absolutely wild. And so you basically start seeing that a lot of her throughout the whole season. She does that whenever something small happens. So she doesn't get a date rose, ugly cry. Then they go on this group camping date. So it's like a group date. Ashley actually sneaks out of her tent in the middle of the night and goes over to Chris's tent, which is so cringe and like stalkery in a way, but also you got to give her props for like really putting herself out there. She decides to go do this to let him know that she's never had a boyfriend and she's sort of a nerd and guys can't typically figure that out about her. So she just wanted to make sure that he knew. And he's like, I get you. All right. That's fine. He's like half asleep and doesn't really understand what she's saying. But basically, she wanted him to know that she's not a hookup girl. She is wife material. She, at this point, was trying to let him know that she is a virgin, but he really wasn't picking up what she was putting down. But we'll get to that later. So Jade, who ends up being married to Tanner, they're one of the most famous bachelor couples of all time, who actually met on Bachelor in Paradise. Jade and Tanner, I mean. But Jade, she ends up going on a one-on-one date with Chris, and it's a princess date. Basically, she gets to dress up in this beautiful gown, and they get to have this beautiful dance in like this ball and all of this. And Ashley is pissed because Ashley, in her mind, is known as a princess. If she were to ever go on a kind of date on The Bachelor, it would be a princess date. She is sort of known as a Disney princess girl. She sees herself as Jasmine, who is looking for her Aladdin. Like that's her thing. And so she gets so upset about this that she like pulls out this dress that she had brought if she were to be asked on a princess style date, does her full makeup, and then just sits there like eating and crying, ugly crying into like her dress and everything. Again, nothing that big or bad has happened, but this is just Ashley I in her feelings. Now, later, when she gets some alone time with Chris, she decides to clarify with him that she is a virgin because she realizes she may not have been clear about this earlier. And she tells him, like, it's not that big a deal. Like, don't take it too seriously. Because here's the thing about Ashley's virginity, right? Like, Ashley is a virgin at this point in time. And again, she's like 24 years old. She says it's because she hasn't found someone, right? It's not for religious reasons. It's nothing like that. She just hasn't found someone that she's wanted to give it to. Something we also hear her say throughout her time on television is that it's really hard for her to like a guy. It's hard for her to be attracted to someone, and it's super rare. But then we also hear her talk about how it's kind of like a red flag for guys as well, where they're just like, oh, I don't want to touch a virgin with a 10-foot pole, basically. So I think it is honestly a mixture of the two. I think it came to a point in life where men were like, oh, I don't know if I want to sleep with her because I'm worried that she's going to get attached to me, which is stupid. That is, I'm not attached to the person I slept with when I was 17. Okay. Like, I don't talk to that guy. I don't like that guy. I don't know that guy. I don't know what's going on with that guy. Like, we're not going to be attached to you. It doesn't matter if we're 17 or 24 or 45. Like, just because we lost our virginity to you does not mean we feel some sort of special attachment to you. Just saying. But anyways, I think a big part of the reason that she is a virgin, despite being so incredibly beautiful, is because men are actually not interested in sleeping with her because they're so worried that she's going to get clingy and hang on, which sucks, honestly. Chris tells the camera that if anything, it makes him respect her more. And then she starts crying and being all worried that she freaked him out over this whole like virgin thing. So she's doing her ugly crying and she's like freaking out to the girls. And she's like, I don't know. I don't know if he was okay with it. I can't. So that's Ashley I for you. It's wild to watch, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to do this episode today, but I'm realizing how difficult it is to actually like articulate this to you guys, and I'll be posting lots of clips online just to show you the extent of it. But you really have to hand it to Bachelor producers to really trying to make it as silly as possible with the music, or making some of these people look like they're snorting, like not snorting, but like, you know, when Ashley's like crying and snorting and being all gross, they're exaggerating the noises, they're making it look like she's talking to um uh, like a squirrel and things like that. They really do make this quite hilarious. So the cast end up doing like their cast trip, and they're going to Santa Fe, New Mexico, because on The Bachelor, they basically hop around. They go from the Bachelor Mansion, then on a bunch of trips until, you know, back to the beginning. So Santa Fe, New Mexico. Now there's this girl, Jordan, that Chris Soules let go of like 3 weeks prior. She apparently drives up to Santa Fe, New Mexico to join the group and basically tell Chris, hey, I know you let me go a few weeks ago, but I still have feelings for you. Would you be willing to let me like become a part of it? Now, the reason I bring this up is because it kind of shows some of Ashley's character, I guess. So I just wanted to mention this scene where Ashley says that this Jordan girl is basically her least favorite in the house because she drank at every opportunity that she got. And she doesn't see a girl like that with Chris. I just thought that was really interesting because it's like, you don't really know her outside of the house. Maybe she drank a lot in the house, but it's also like, you have to think about it, a very nerve-wracking a nerve-wracking situation. It's also sort of like judgmental to look at someone's drinking habits and determine whether they're like wife material or not, or whether they're Chris material or not. And it's something I really did notice in this rewatching, how many of these women were like, oh, Chris wouldn't want someone like that, or Chris wouldn't want this. And it's like, you guys aren't going to be his mom, right? Like, you're going to be his wife. So don't worry about what he's looking for or what he ends up finding or whatever. Like, I understand the concept of like, okay, well, if he would be with someone like that, like, I can't see him with me because I'm so different than that. But at the same time, like, you got to just let people pick who they're going to pick. So Ashley tells Chris that Jordan isn't wife material on their one-on-one time during this group date. He's like, listen, she's like, listen, this isn't the kind of girl that you want to marry. I don't think that she's right for you. And then when she goes back to the rest of the group of girls, she's like, I think that we should be mean to her if we let her stay. And the other girls are just sort of like, that's not okay at all. And especially Whitney Bishop, I think is her last name. She's the one who Chris ultimately picks. She does not like this from Ashley. And she is just like, this is mean girl behavior. Chris would not like this. Chris would not appreciate this mean girl behavior. As his mother, I tell you this right here, right now. So, there is that. And Whitney ends up getting the group date rose that night. And Ashley tells the camera that she didn't think that she had to worry about that, referring to Whitney, calling Whitney a that. Very odd behavior from Ashley, and it was very bitchy, but also very Housewives, right? Because when I was watching this show back, I was just really impressed with how much housewifery I saw Ashley I do during the course of her time on The Bachelor. So then we get this iconic 2-on-1 date with Ashley I and Kelsey in the Badlands. Now, little quick synopsis on Kelsey, just to remind you. Kelsey was someone who had previously been married, and then her husband, he died like on a run. His heart had just stopped. But the way that she presents the information is very weird. She talks about it like she talks about it like very monotone and very robotic, but then also as a positive, she's like, yeah, my husband died and my story's amazing. I am amazing and I am going to find somebody amazing. And it's like, okay, I don't think your story is amazing. Like, it's sad, but she's like, my story's amazing. It's tragic. And when she told Chris about it, she was telling him the story and then went right into making out with him, which is weird and creepy, which makes sense why he chose these two women for his 2-on-1 date. So we're in the Badlands. We're literally like in rock formations, right? And in the middle, we have like this setup that's like a little picnic. So the three of them are sitting there and hanging out. They're drinking wine together in the outdoor setup. They've got the helicopter that took them there. Chris pulls Ashley aside first. They make out. She tells Chris that Kelsey is strategic and that all of the girls in the house think that she is fake. As I just sort of said, she has this tragic story, but the way that she talks about it is very like weird and robotic, and the women just feel like there's something off there. So then Chris then pulls Kelsey aside, tells her what Ashley said. And he says that Ashley said that, you've been fake and that maybe there's like a difference in the level of maturity. And then Ashley thinks that he's going to send Kelsey home, but that's not exactly what happens. So first we have them all sitting back down together. Not all of them, but Chris is off somewhere. So we have the two women sitting back down together. So this is after Ashley has told Chris some shit about Kelsey. And then he has now relayed that information to Kelsey. And now these two women have to sit down together. And basically Kelsey says like, Ashley is this like Kardashian. She has too much makeup on. She's playing this game. That's what she's telling the camera. And then Kelsey implies to Ashley that she's not smart and that she doesn't really have a place here. Ashley responds with, I am smart. I also have a master's degree just like you do. And just because you want to take this opportunity to sort of dumb me down doesn't mean I'm going to accept that. Then Kelsey feels like Ashley took the opportunity to throw her under the bus with Chris, which, she did. But that's also like a weird like Bachelor trope, or like not necessarily a faux pas. Yeah, it's definitely not a Bachelor faux pas where you waste your one-on-one time talking about somebody else. She didn't have to do that. I don't think it would have changed anything at the end of the day. Obviously, it looked like he was willing to let both of these women go home, but there you go. So Kelsey says that she is up here and Ashley is down here. And that is not an okay thing to say about anybody ever. It's actually very good housewifery, but we do not want Kelsey on a housewife show. Absolutely not. So then Ashley, who's all upset now because now Kelsey knows what she said about her, she runs off crying to go find Chris. And she's just like, why did you tell her what I said about you? And he's like, well, I couldn't not like hear her out. I had to like hear her side of the story. And then she berates herself for crying all of the time. Like she makes it seem as though this isn't who she is. And in all fairness, this is our first time seeing her on TV, so we don't know any different. But at this point in time, she's saying to him, like, I can't believe I keep crying in front of you. Like, what? Why do I keep doing that? As if that isn't the person that she is. But, anyways, Chris ends up telling her that he feels that they are in different places and their lifestyles are too different. And he doesn't feel like he could give her the lifestyle that she wants. And that's completely fair, right? As smart as she is, she does dress like a Kardashian. She does want a different kind of lifestyle, and she's not going to want to be a farmer's wife in Iowa, right? Like, hello. I feel like that's very obvious here. So she snorts a bunch and like walks off crying. But then she comes back and then she's like, are you kidding me, Chris? And he's like, no, like this is it. She full on like snorts and hyperventilates during her final interview, and she's just like, I can't believe it's happening. It's very creepy. So then he ends up breaking up with Kelsey too. He gets in a helicopter, leaving the two women he has dumped on the opposite sides of the Badlands. And I'm going to post this on Instagram because the way that this scene is cut is absolutely hilarious, where they have them literally on different sides of the mountain while Chris gets to leave through the middle into the air, leaving them there to what it looks like is to their demise, right? It's just really funny. And again, I just love the Bachelor producers. Okay, let's move on to chapter 3, Bachelor in Paradise season 2. So, Bachelor in Paradise, as you may or may not know, is a spin-off show of The Bachelor. It's where they take people from The Bachelorette and The Bachelor, put them on an island together, and see what happens, right? And it's supposed to be to find love. And in earlier seasons, especially Bachelor in Paradise season 2 and season 3, it would be very frowned upon you to have had a relationship with someone pre-existing going into the show, or to continue to try to get roses from people until someone that you really want to come down those stairs to show up, right? All of that is really frowned upon because you're supposed to be there to find love and not to be taking opportunities away from other people. So anytime something like that has happened where people believe that there's like this pre-plan between two people to know each other in advance and then like take advantage of whatever clout they can get on Bachelor in Paradise and then just like leave together, they will do. So that sort of like becomes a thing with Joe and this girl Sam and this other girl Julia on Bachelor in Paradise season 2. One of the reasons, like I said, I was able to get through a lot of this a lot quicker. One, because I've seen it before, and two, because I was able to skip a lot of that because it wasn't really relevant to this. This isn't an ensemble show in the same way that like Summer House is, right? So like when I had to rewatch Summer House for the sake of doing an episode of Be True Hollywood Story, it took a week because I really had to watch Summer House season 2. So on Bachelor in Paradise season 2, Ashley says that people know her as a Kardashian wannabe. So again, she owns that. Now, this time she brings her sister Lauren, which is a very weird thing to do and has never really happened in the history of like The Bachelor ever, because anyone who is on any of the spinoffs of the show have always been on a previous season of the show. We only know Lauren through Ashley. Lauren describes herself, as I said, the sluttier version of Ashley. And she just feels like, yeah, I want to bring my sister with me to just sort of help me out. Now, Ashley has her sights set on Jared Habon right away. Jared Habon was from Caitlin Bristow season of The Bachelorette. And funny enough, Caitlin Bristow was from Chris Soules' season of The Bachelor. So she made it pretty far in that season. As I said, Whitney Bischoff won, but Caitlin then became The Bachelorette with Britt. I forget Britt's last name. They were the Bachelorette together for like a couple of hours. They had like the guys then like choose, and the guys ended up choosing Caitlin. Jared made it pretty far, but then here he is on Bachelor in Paradise. And my understanding is like the way that it works is like they'll let you know, like producers will let you know who might be there or like ask you who you want to be there. So they do kind of like make an effort to like pair some people. So yeah, we've got Ashley and we've got Jared, and she is like, this is the guy I want. This is it. This is 100 or nothing. So she ends up getting a one-on-one date with, or she gets a one-on-one date, right? Like a date card. And she ends up picking Jared to go with her. And everyone is talking, like all the other cast members are talking about how it looks like Jared would rather die than go on this date. He does look really like forlorn and depressed. And I remember watching back these seasons thinking, I just think that he's just a really nice guy and he doesn't want to be mean and he doesn't want to say no to her to the point that he would let this continue on forever and ever and ever. So that's where I sort of saw this sort of beginning, I guess. They go on this dune buggy date and it's really fun. But every time that he talks to another girl in paradise, Ashley breaks down and she says that she's going to die alone and she's freaking out and she's just like, just love him and he's perfect and I just love everything about him. Everyone needs a Jared. Everyone needs a you. So that's Ashley. And then when it comes to the first rose ceremony, though, he does end up giving it to Ashley. So that brightens her day for like that one day. But then as the days go on, Jared ends up becoming interested in Claire Crawley. Now, at the time, Jared was like 26 or 27 and Claire was 34. Claire did go on to become the Bachelorette herself. It was during that COVID season. Oh my gosh, I just love all the crossover lore. It was that season during COVID where she had sort of already picked Dale Moss because she had looked him up on Instagram before and already knew he was going to be part of the cast. She wasn't really willing to go on dates with anybody else. Then she ended up leaving with Dale. Tasia ends up filling in as the Bachelorette for the rest. But that was the season that Brett Engelman, who is Demi's husband, had been cast for to meet Claire Crawley. So anyways, Jared asked Claire out on a date. Ashley loses her mind. But then Jared gives Ashley the rose, and then Claire ends up freaking out and cries. And she just kind of has one of those moments where, I think we all do as women, where you're just so frustrated because you keep trying with guy after guy after guy, and then you think you finally found someone, and then they also tell you no. And so I think Claire sort of had one of those moments, an Ashley moment, if you will, but it really made Ashley really, really happy because on the other end, she's got Jared kissing her extremely passionately, and she's thinking, okay, like he wants to be with me and not Claire. But then he realizes that his feelings for Ashley just aren't as strong as hers are for him. Well, duh. I think that is a very, very obvious thing. So he ends up ending things with her, and she's hysterical, crying, saying that, he's perfect and that she couldn't match up. And she cries that every guy that she likes does this to her. Every guy that she likes doesn't like her back. And it is really sad and it's really hard to watch because you're looking at this girl who's so beautiful and you're like, how is this happening? But I have to be honest with you, and maybe I'm not describing it as well as I could. She is one of the most annoying people I have ever seen, ever, anywhere. And so I think that sometimes her beauty cannot surpass her personality. I feel so bad to say that because I see a lot of myself in her. I also know that I'm a very annoying girly, and I know that I'm also an acquired taste. So if you don't like me, acquire some taste. That should be her Housewives tagline, even though it used to be Ramona's. I just say all that to say that, like, I know I'm being mean right now, but I also know that I am the exact same person as she is. So if that helps, I feel it, right? Then she ends up calling Caitlin Bristowe from Bachelor in Paradise and being like, what did you do to Jared? He's obsessed with you. Because she has convinced herself that the reason that Jared does not want to be with her is because he is still hung up on Caitlin from the Bachelorette. But again, I mean, who knows? But at this point in time, I remember thinking, he is just not that into you. It is just because you are so annoying, and well, you might be attracted to each other, and he may have really tried here because you're showing such an interest. He's just not that into you. So Ashley tries to commiserate with this guy, Joe, who's the villain, because he's the villain because he had tried to set up a pre-relationship with this girl, Samantha, and he tried to stay on the show by like getting roses from this girl, Julia, who he didn't actually like, who was building feelings for him in order to stay in paradise so that he could eventually meet Samantha. And then once everybody figured this all out, everybody was anti-Joe, including Samantha, because she just wanted to kind of like, go with the flow and do what everybody else was doing, and everybody was mad at Joe. So she's like, yeah, I didn't mean to do any of that. None of that had to do with me. So Ashley's trying to commiserate with Joe about like being dumped and Samantha changing her mind. And she starts like bawling and she's like, it's just not I really felt like Jared and I were meant to be. But Joe is like a guy, like a stone cold, hard, like construction type of guy. And he's just like, yeah, I'm not going to be that kind of person for you. I'm not an emotional guy. So it was really awkward. So she's trying to like wipe her tears and walk away. She's like, okay, I'll leave. Very, very weird. Um, so Ashley and Jared after that basically don't talk for like a week at in paradise. And then at the next rose ceremony, she decides to give him a letter that she wrote for him. Now, this letter is allegedly 4 pages front and back. Okay, very reminiscent of Ross and Rachel. Now, I really did everything in my power to try to find a copy of this letter because I really wanted to read it to you guys. I was so jazzed about it. I couldn't find it. All I could find was like the letter that I could see Jared reading like over his shoulder. So I can only read 1 page of it and I'll do my best. It starts with zone. So I assume it says like friend zone. Well, I can't even think Kardashians have even had an appearance. Todd told me yesterday not to take this rejection so personally because you haven't even seen my real best personality. I know you must be thinking, why in the world has this girl yet to come out of her shell? I don't think he's thinking that, honey. I suspect part of it has to do with um, seeing your closed off disposition from the start. Sorry, I'm just having trouble reading this. That's why I'm reading this way. Your smile is always welcoming. It's handwritten. So just want to point out this is handwritten on paper. So I'm just doing my best to sort of just kind of read it. Um, I know you must be thinking, why in the world has this girl yet to come out of her shell? I suspect part of it has to do with seeing your closed off disposition from the start, which your smile is always welcoming, but your body language often says stay away. The other part is probably the pressure of trying to impress someone I perceive as pretty perfect. I mean, geez, Jared, you couldn't come up with something, I assume it says like bad about yourself. And then it says, told you when I got the idea of something on, and I must see it through amplifying even. Sorry, I'm only able to read like a few words right now. Being stubborn, maybe that's what romantic I've ever been, or maybe just plain desperate. Oddly, the other night, not a couple of you told me how you were feeling. Jessica, tell Ashley not to give up on Jared's heart. I haven't spoken. I don't know. That's all I'm able to read. But there was one part of this that I wasn't able to like find anywhere, but I'm positive that it happened. And this is just like from my memory, where it must have been this letter where it said something to the effect of, I've had friends who have known someone in their life for years and even like had bad relationships with that person, like hated that person, and then years later they end up like falling in love. So she's trying to like prove a point that like even if he hates her now, he may grow to love her one day, which is wild because that's literally what ends up happening. So he's like reading this letter and he's just like, oh God. Ashley ends up seeing Jared talking to Jacqueline. So then she goes over to Chris Harrison and asks for a fantasy suite card date in order to seal the deal because she feels like, you know what? Despite being a virgin, I need to put all my cards on the table. It's wild, right? Because she's a virgin, but she's willing to orchestrate her own fantasy card date so that she could try to make something happen with Jared. Because she tries this letter, it doesn't work. She tries, being interested in him, he shoots her down. She sees him talking to another girl and she thinks, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to get an overnight date with him. So Jared does agree to it, but they do not have sex, which makes sense. She tells the camera that she loved watching Jared sleep and that she loves him. Again, the cringiest girl you will ever see in your life. I cannot even describe it, you guys. Like, you don't even understand. You have to like watch this for yourself to see her speak this way. And the fact that she is now married to this guy, I mean, spoiler alert, we'll get there in a minute, but like, it's just wild. Now, Jared tells the camera that he feels like their relationship isn't going anywhere and he was hoping his feelings would grow, but they didn't. He feels like shit that he has to have this conversation with her again. And we all know what's going to happen when he has this conversation with her again. She's going to fucking cry, right? So he tells her their connection isn't strong enough to get there and he's going to leave paradise and she cries. All right, let's move on to chapter 4, Bachelor in Paradise season 3. Okay, on Bachelor in Paradise season 3, Jared is there, but Ashley is not, or at least not at the beginning. So he feels like this will be a fresh start for him in order to meet somebody new and to move on from Ashley. It's been like a year. They've been friends during that period of time, but he is ready to meet somebody new. So he ends up going on a date with Kayla Quinn, who is now married to someone else, has a couple of kids. And there was a cheating scandal, I believe, going on with her husband, but like, who knows? My understanding is she's been married for a really long time. But they end up going on a date and he really likes her. Now, after all of this, for the sake of it, because they do end up leaving the show together, just for, the sake of like the tea, they end up being together for 6 weeks after the show. And I remember that Ellen had the three of them on. So it was like Jared, Kayla, and Ashley, and made them like kind of like cosplay The Bachelor and have Jared give one of them a rose and he gave it to Ashley. But, anyways, I digress. So Ashley comes back at the end of episode 3 because she is in love with Jared. That is why she is saying that she is there. She's like, we've had a year of being friends. We've slept in the same bed together. We've kissed, but nothing has happened down there. But Jared did not know that I was coming. So once Ashley sees that Jared is with Kayla, she is absolutely devastated. Now, apparently, she actually begged Kayla beforehand not to go for Jared. She did not know that, and Kayla didn't know that she was going to be in paradise, but I guess they were friends beforehand. And she told Kayla, like, hey, that's my guy. If you ever end up on a show with him or anything, like, don't go for him. And apparently, Kayla said that she wouldn't. So she now believes that Kayla is a backstabbing whore of a friend. And she keeps telling Jared this. She feels like that is very important that Jared know. Now, she was convinced that she would be leaving the season with him, and she's devastated that he likes Kayla. Now, at this point of knowing her, I really do not believe that she, or I really do not understand why she believed that she thought she would be leaving the season with him. Like, yes, we do find out a little bit later when we get into like their actual relationship and them talking about it. That year, what that year looked like between Bachelor in Paradise 2 and 3, and how, he definitely was giving her mixed signals and it definitely was confusing. But the way that she goes into things is very confusing to me, where it's like full steam ahead when she has not been given that reassurance on the other end, like whatsoever. So Ashley ends up having to take the Canadian Daniel on a date. I don't know if you guys remember this guy. He's super weird, super sexual. No one else is even available, so she has to go out with him. And Nick Viall is also on this season. I don't know if you guys remember this. There was a lot of fighting between him and Josh Murray, who is like his biggest nemesis. But Ashley and Nick are friends on this season, and she's talking to Nick about this. And Nick is like, have you mentally prepared yourself for the fact that he may not want to be with you? And she's like, no, like, not at all. I'm going to be with him. And Nick is like, this is infatuation and obsession. This is not love. You are not going to be with him ever. You are never, ever getting together, basically, right? And look how wrong Nick Viall was now. Ashley is like, shh, you're wrong. I'm not obsessed with him. I'm in love. And as psychotic as she seemed then, he was wrong, right? He was wrong. Look how wrong he was about how Taylor Frankie Paul should be the Bachelorette. And look how wrong he was about Jared Habon never going to be in love with Ashley Iaconetti. No one should ever take any advice from Nick Viall is basically what we come away with this with. But basically, Ashley ends up telling Jared that she came to Paradise to get over him, which makes no sense because initially she said that she came there because she was in love with him. And then he gets upset because he feels like she's ruining his experience, which is fair, right? Like, how are you supposed to ever really move on, even with Kayla, when you have like this girl breathing down your neck and crying on your shoulder every 2 seconds, right? And so she says that she was hoping to like someone more there, but that didn't happen. And every time he leaves a room, she misses him. Oh, God. Oh, God, Ashley. Like, it's so much. And he's like, I like Kayla. And then Ashley says, are you sure you don't want to be with me ever? And I remember this moment sitting in my house, in my apartment, like 10 years ago, whenever this was on. And I was like, oh my God, Ashley, right? We know that this is hard enough for Jared as it is because he is just like not good at like communicating his feelings. We already know he's so shy. We already know he's such a nice guy and he doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. He has said it now to you. He's like, I like Kayla. And you're like, so we're not going to be together ever? It really seems like as though he had given her some absolute dead, hard, fast reassurance that they were going to be together. And even hearing about what their relationship entailed later and what it actually entailed prior, he never gave her that. He definitely never gave her that. He gave her mixed signals, but he never told her we are going to be together. Absolutely not. So Jared is like, I cannot believe we are doing this again. And I am walking away. And I do not blame this guy. So at the rose ceremony, Jared picks Kayla, leaving Ashley to go home. But Ashley has only been there for this one episode, right? And Ashley is the drama. So I'm not sure what happened here, but what typically happens on The Bachelor is if you don't get picked and you don't get a rose, you go home. So she goes to the car to go home, but then turns around and says, hey guys, it's me again. Hey, awkward. Can I come back actually and be a part of this? Because in the last 5 minutes, I have decided that I have not put my full self into this because I have been so fixated on Jared. So now I want to come back and give myself a real chance to find real love here. Will you guys accept me staying? And this has like never been done before. That being said, like Bachelor rules aren't like hard and fast. They can change on a dime, right? So it is what it is. But it's like I was just really surprised that I just felt like something production maybe made her do because again, she is the drama. So if she were to have left right then, it would have been like, oh, well, what was all that for? Right. So maybe they made her do this so that she could maintain on the show, like for the drama purposes. But then Jared says, like, yes, stay. We want you to stay. And it's like, why are you of all people egging this on when you know you don't want her to stay, right? He is confusing. Like it really, really is. So that whole thing happens, which is just so like weird and fake. And Ashley ends up continuing to spiral once they agree that she can stay because she can't understand it because she just feels like she and Jared are so compatible and how can they not be meant to be together? And it's like, girl, we've all been there. You know what I mean? Like we've all been there. This isn't the first time in the history of relationships where you feel like someone is perfect for you and that person isn't even thinking about you at all, right? So then they have Jade and Tanner come down to Bachelor in Paradise to kind of, impart their wisdom and all the great things about being the best Bachelor couple ever. And basically, they are there to give out a date card to a couple. Now, Ashley tells them that Kayla is fake and that she hears that Jared likes her more than he likes her, she likes him more. He likes her more than she likes him. You know what I'm saying? And Jade and Tanner end up giving their date card to Jared and Kayla, which pisses Ashley off, obviously, and leads to what do we hear now? I can't believe they gave them a date card. It's not fair. Now, on their date, Kayla tells Jared that she feels like Ashley is hindering their relationship. And he tries to validate her and tells her that he's really concentrating on her. He's into her. He's all about her. But Ashley does try to sabotage things by telling Jared that she hears that he likes her more than she likes him. So to be careful. I mean, I don't know how much that's like sabotaging, but it's definitely something that bothers Kayla. And she ends up being upset enough about it to go speak to Ashley about it. And she's just like, listen, I heard that you told Jared that he should be careful of me and stuff. And I sort of feel like you're hampering our progress and our happiness. And Ashley tells the camera that she wants to scratch Kayla's eyes out for calling her and Jared a we. Like our happiness and our progress and we. Now, apparently Ashley's dog Lucy died 2 months ago and is in a jar in her house. So she is just dealing with a bunch of other emotions as well. And again, this is the only Ashley eye that we've ever seen. So I don't know how much that really factors into what's going on here. But it's a really interesting scene to watch between her and Kayla because Kayla really does come off as this sweet, demure, mindful, beautiful angel of a girl. And Ashley is coming off as this mean girl who is really trying to be manipulative and conniving in a way where she wants to make sure that this relationship just doesn't see the light of day. And you can see how hurt Kayla is by that. But then at the same time, I mean, what's the thing I said earlier? Was it in a different episode? It was in a different episode about how like you can't really change how other people are acting towards you. You can only change your reaction. So like it's gonna rain, you can only change how you react to the rain. So all you guys could leave, which we will get to in a minute. But then we have Wells Adams coming in, and I'm sure we all know Wells. Wells. He ends up becoming Bachelor in Paradise's bartender, but he wasn't at this point. His first time on the show was season 3. He is currently married to Sarah Hyland, as we know, but at this point in time, he is single, and he comes down with a date card. Now, everyone tries to convince him to take Ashley, and he's not really sure why. He's like, really? Yeah. And everyone's like, yeah, Ashley, she's perfect for you, perfect for you. Because everyone is trying to help the situation and trying to help Jared move on. So he takes her on a date and she agrees and everybody starts cheering. And he's like, does that happen every time? And Ashley's like, no, it's only happening because this is so embarrassing. So they actually have a really good date where she's telling him that her favorite brand is Hanson, which I mentioned earlier. They're really into each other. The date's good. They make out. And then at the rose ceremony, Ashley gives it to Wells, and Jared is watching smiling. So I'm like, okay. Like, I never see an ounce of jealousy from this guy. So I'm like, all right, he's all into it. So then Ashley sits down with Kayla about flaunting making out in front of her because she just feels like, even with Wells here, she thought it would be easier, but she just cannot handle seeing the two of them together. And Kayla talks to her again about how she feels like she can't grow in this relationship with Ashley around and she wants to go home. And she asks Jared to go with her, and he agrees. And this is what they needed to do, right? Like, if they really did want to try out the relationship, which unfortunately only lasted for 6 weeks, so obviously it didn't actually have anything to do with Ashley, you kind of have to see what your relationship is outside of this space. Now, Jared goes to tell Ashley this, and she absolutely freaks out. She cannot believe that he's going to leave with Kayla. And she can't believe that, like, they're getting in this fight over this and it's like going to destroy them. So she's absolutely freaking the fuck out. But he leaves with her. As I said, they only end up being together for like 6 weeks. So that was that. But Ashley ends up staying on. Wells ends up going on dates with 2 other women, and Ashley isn't happy about it, but she's not as upset as she was when Jared went on dates. She's not freaking out. Nick Vile tries to coach her on being possessive, which is ridiculous because, again, who is Nick Vile in this world to be teaching anybody anything? And then near the end of the whole thing, when Chris Harrison comes to everybody and basically says, like, okay, now we're almost at the end of this, so everybody has to take this a lot more seriously, chop chop. There's going to be an overnight date. Ashley is all into that idea. Because again, I told you guys, she's not a virgin because she's not interested in having sex, and she's not a virgin because of religious reasons. She just hasn't found someone who's willing to have sex with her that she's also willing to have sex with, right? So she's like, yeah, I'd be willing to. And Wells is telling the guys in a like, tell me more type of situation where Ashley's talking to the girls and Wells is talking to the guys. He's like, no, I just don't think I feel comfortable with that. I don't think that's appropriate. And when he sits down to talk to Ashley about it, he's like, I feel like that's just not something that you would really want to do. And that's not something I would want to do either. And she was just like, yeah, right. Yeah, I'm totally on the same page. So he ends up ending things with her. She ends up asking him for one more kiss, which is like really embarrassing. But he ends up giving it to her, and that ends her time on Bachelor in Paradise. But Kayla ended up speaking to the Huffington Post about her time on the show. So I just wanted to read that for you guys really quick. Okay. It says Kayla explains what really went down with Jared on Bachelor in Paradise. Halfway through season 3 of Bachelor in Paradise, Kayla Quinn arrived in Mexico and immediately stole the heart of fan favorite and lady killer, Jared Habon. Before her arrival, Jared, who appeared on Kaitlyn Bristow's season of The Bachelorette and season 2 of Bachelor in Paradise, had been spending time with Emily Ferguson, who, like Kayla, competed for Ben Higgins' heart on the last season of The Bachelor. An instant connection between Kayla and Jared blossomed, leading many to hope that the latter would have a more successful time in Paradise than he did last season, when he spent the entire stint in an entanglement with Ashley Iaconetti, whose passion for him was never close to reciprocated. Just as Kayla and Jared were getting cozy, though, the inevitable occurred. Bachelor in Paradise producer sent in Ashley herself, eager to see if her will they won't they friendship with Jared could finally be coaxed into a romance. When she learned her man was otherwise occupied and with a woman she believed wouldn't even be in Paradise, Ashley's trademark tears flowed, not to mention accusations that Kayla was a backstabbing whore of a friend for pursuing Jared despite assuring Ashley in the past that he wasn't her type. How will the Kayla, Jared, Ashley love triangle play out on this week's installment of Bachelor in Paradise? It remains to be seen. But one person we haven't heard much from on the explosive on screen drama is Kayla. She offered the Huffington Post Bachelor podcast here to make friends some exclusive insight into what really happened. So there's like some questions and answers. So it says, you came into Paradise and chose Jared to go on a date. Why did you pick Jared? And Kayla says, based on my conversation with all of the guys, Jared was just really warm and welcoming, and we had the most in common, being from the Northeast, and he just seemed like a really great guy to get to know. Then the question is, were you aware at the time that he had gone on a date with Emily? And Kayla said, I had no clue. Looking back, I'm kind of surprised how deep her feelings were for him, and I kind of feel bad that I took that away from her. Then there's the question. She got a little bit upset after Jared said that he was going to go on a date with you. Are you guys cool now? And Kayla said, yeah, you never know what people say behind your back. So if she had this tension with me, I appreciate her bringing it out to the open, and we've talked about it. We had a girls' weekend this last weekend, and we're all good. And I appreciate how vocal and honest the twins are with their feelings. The question is, so your horseback riding date with Jared, how was it? And she said it was so romantic. My horse's name was Tequila. His horse's name was Allison. We rode into the distance, into the ocean. It was so much fun. I kind of wanted to take it slow. I didn't want to rush things, but at the same time, it's paradise and you're supposed to. So on that horse date, I specifically said to Jared, I want to take things slow. And then about 3 seconds later, he comes in for a kiss. Then the question is, Jared has been on VIP twice, but he's never really shown all that much emotion or spoken that much as a person. But last week was different. And Kayla said, it was really sweet to see watching back, and he's just adorable. And I think he becomes more vocal when he's confident and passionate about how he's feeling. And I think that comes out in the episode. And then the question is, does Jared have some sort of pull in person that we can't see on TV? What makes him so damn appealing to all of the women on Bachelor in Paradise? And Kayla said, there's just some inner confidence and mysteriousness about Jared. When you see him, he has this smirk and this smile that's very engaging. I think that's what's enticed Emily and me and Ashley. And he is the most humble human being on earth. And no matter who you are, he will make you feel comfortable and make you feel appreciated. And that's why everyone loves him. The question is, so after you made a connection with Jared, Ashley who was spent the last year being in love with Jared, arrives, did you know she was coming? And Kayla said, we had spoken before and she had mentioned she was coming, hence everything that unfolded. But I think this was really healthy for all parties. You too. The question is, from this perspective, what went down, from your perspective, what went down between you and Ashley before you guys went to Paradise? And Kayla said, Ashley and I had hung out a couple of times. I still to this day think she's super sweet and super genuine and hope one day we can get back to where we were. Before Paradise, we had hung out and she said, Kayla, whatever you do, don't come to Paradise because I know Jared will like you. And I said, don't worry, I'm not coming. At the time, I was dating somebody. I had no intention of coming onto Paradise. And even after I'd broken up with that person, I was like, I don't think I'm coming. And it was a very last minute decision. I didn't think I needed to call her and get her approval to come and meet somebody new. But originally, I had mentioned to her I wouldn't come. I had made that promise, and apparently I should have called her. But I came anyways, and that's kind of how Paradise works. You want it to be a surprise. I thought it would be kind of fun to see who was there. And, girls don't really like surprises. They really want a heads up. And then the question is, were you surprised by the vitriol directed towards you? And Kayla said, it did kind of surprise me how close the other cast members were to Ashley and how much they sided with her. But at the same time, I do know that she's really close with everybody and she has really deep roots. That's kind of the name of the game. There's a reason people love Ashley and they wanted to protect her. And I totally understand that. And I kind of stepped on that territory. That's the end of the interview. So yeah, did not turn out to be a great time for them. So that's Kayla's take on matters. And when it comes to Jared, he also did some press about returning for Bachelor in Paradise season 3 and what he would have done whether he had known Ashley was coming. So he says that he would have reconsidered joining the show had he known Ashley would be showing up midway through. He said, if I had any idea that Ashley was coming into Paradise, even if it was a small percentage, to either be with me or get over me, I would have never gone to Paradise, he told the Huffington Post on the site's Here to Make Friends podcast this week. So I think that was one thing that I was most frustrated by. But Jared and Ashley had actually discussed the possibility that they could end up on the show together, which is confusing. He's like, we talked about it a lot. And then she got a phone call about the possibility of her going on. So she was more understanding the more that we talked. We both decided that we needed to make this decision individually and that if we went, we would be going for other people. I knew that she had interest in Wells and I had mentioned Kayla to her, and I honestly thought that everything was going to be okay. Well, that was obviously not the case because Ashley cried a million times. And Jared had said I had a lot of frustrations towards the things that Ashley said and did, and discussed her approach and her unwillingness to try to move past myself until West came, he said. Wells. It was very troubling time for a while between Ashley and myself, but we were able to get past it. We've talked through everything, and I'm still friends with her. Now, as a fun aside in terms of like money, Ashley has clarified in an AMA that you don't get paid to appear as a contestant on The Bachelor. So if you are one of like 25 women that appear on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, you don't get paid. But on Bachelor in Paradise, you get paid $400 a day. Now, this was a long time ago when Ashley was on the show. So I don't know if that number has changed, inflation, whatever, but it's just sort of an interesting fun fact. Okay, let's move on to chapter 5, which is Bachelor Winter Games. Yes, there was a show called Bachelor Winter Games. So basically what this show was sort of like a Olympic type show where they had the cast members compete in different types of Olympic style tasks like skating, skiing, things like that. And they were people from Bachelor shows from all over the world. So they had someone there from Japan, people there from Australia, what have you. So Ashley Iaconetti was there, but someone who was also there was Kevin Wendt. Wendt, just so you guys are aware. Now, Kevin is actually from here, from Toronto. And I know him from Jasmine's season of The Bachelorette. And this was Canada's first Bachelorette season. So Jasmine Lorimer was the first Canadian Bachelorette, and she ended up picking Kevin Wendt. They didn't end up working out, and now we end up seeing Kevin on this spin-off show, Bachelor Winter Games. So people initially try to vote Ashley out on this show because they think that she's there for the wrong reasons, which is such an interesting Bachelor trope. We always say here for the right reasons on The Bachelor, usually has to do with being there because you want to actually meet somebody and not because you're there for clout. But a lot of people felt like she was there for clout and she was more so there to connect with the people that she was already friends with and wasn't so much interested in getting to know other people. But she ended up pushing through and persevering throughout the entire series, which was only like 5 episodes, which I did end up having to rewatch. But she had her sights set on Kevin this entire time. One other thing I do want to mention about the Bachelor Winter Games is how absolutely hilarious it was. Like, as a concept, it sort of seems a little silly, a little ridiculous, but it literally started with a parade that had someone actually singing a national anthem for the Bachelor Winter Games that basically ended with something like, "We need to see this through." I'll put it on Instagram. It's very bizarre. But you had some of the cast members like Kevin Wendt, having his hand over his chest as you would during the national anthem, looking around being like, what fresh hell did I just agree to? This is absolutely hilariously ridiculous. So Ashley is now seemingly over Jared for the first time in her life. We've never seen her on a show. Well, yes, we have. I was going to say we haven't seen her on a show without him, but we have. Obviously, we saw her on The Bachelor without him. But this is now at this point her 4th show because she's been on The Bachelor, Bachelor in Paradise Season 2, Bachelor in Paradise Season 3, and now Bachelor Winter Games. So this is her 4th show. The Real Housewives of Rhode Island will be her 5th show, her 5th reality show, which is, impressive, I guess. Right? So she has her sights set on Kevin. She's absolutely interested in him, but he is interested in Bibiana and he ends up taking her on a date. Ashley does her typical Ashley thing and freaks out. And she's just like, why does this always happen to me? Every time I like a guy, he doesn't like me back. It is not fair. But then, miraculously, Kevin starts to show an interest in Ashley. And he asks her to go on a one-on-one date. So now, of course, she loves him and wants to marry him. And that is typical Ashley and typical Ashley fashion. Now she ends up talking to him about being a virgin and how that normally turns men off. They sometimes just can't imagine that she doesn't want to like cling right to them and get married to them right away. So she explains that again, it isn't about like religious reasons. It's just about her finding the right guy. And Kevin is super understanding about it. And they do the whole like ghost clay making date from like that movie Ghost, We also have like this competition where JoJo, Ari, and Rachel Lindsay come in to judge the couples and their best kisses. So they have like basically like a kissing competition, and Kevin and Ashley win, right? So you're really starting to see some chemistry between the two of them. He is a great guy. He is Canadian. He actually used to live in Liberty Village, which none of you know what that is probably, but it's a really nice area of Toronto. And a friend of mine saw him driving through there like a couple of times. Now he is married to someone else from the Bachelor franchise. We'll talk about that in a minute. Astrid Locke. I'm sure they live like in the suburbs now, but like, yeah, you guys know I'm always like pumping up my Canadian queen. So now I'm always like pumping up the one Toronto Bachelor reality TV guy. So love me some Kevin. Love me some Kevin Went. Now Chris Harrison ends up giving them a fantasy suite card, and this time Ashley has a guy who's into it, right? He's like, yeah, I would totally be down. So they go to like this inn, and she tells him how she waited a really long time, but she kind of feels good to know that she can be able to tell girls who message her that you can find someone like him and it could be worth the wait. And I'm sure that there have been many girls who have reached out to her. And this is something that she even says on the reunion, where girls have contacted her about her being a role model for them and saying, like, you waited for a guy who respected you and you waited for someone that made you feel comfortable. And that's amazing. And that's true. And that's real. And you waited for somebody who wants to be with you for the foreseeable future, right? Like there's nothing wrong with waiting for somebody who wants all those things from you. And that's one of the main reasons that I've been celibate for such a long time. It's because no one is willing to give me those things. And there's nothing wrong with holding up your boundaries for those things. On the reunion, they talk about having gone back and forth between Canada and LA. But she talks about how because her virginity has been talked about so much, she kind of doesn't want to address it when it comes to the reunion or ever again. So even though they went to the fantasy suite date together, they don't tell us whether they had sex. That being said, Kevin does end up confirming that on a podcast later on. He says that no, they did not have sex that night in the fantasy suite date. That being said, they did date. They were in a exclusive relationship. So he says, in terms of what you do in a relationship and what people typically do, take that for what you will. So it is my understanding, based on how he said that Ashley did lose her virginity to Kevin Wentz, but it wasn't on the one-on-one date in Bachelor Winter Games. It was like after the fact. But yeah, I was really into them as a couple, and I was just like, this is so cool. Like, but I always wondered like how that was really going to work, because she's in LA, he's in Toronto, he's a firefighter here. I wasn't sure if it was ever part of his plan to go like to the US, because like his previous Bachelorette contestant, she lived in Vancouver. And then on the I Don't Get It podcast on February 26, 2018. So this was the podcast that Lauren, Ashley, and their ex-Bachelor producer, Nas Perez, do together. This is where Ashley talked a lot more about her relationship with Kevin and what she loved about him. She said that she felt like the virgin thing, again, is such a turnoff for guys because they feel like they have to decide in 2 dates if they're going to marry her or dump her. And what she really liked about Kevin is that he liked that about her. He was constantly reassuring her about where they were in the relationship and where they're going. And he apparently like put her on his list of who he wanted to be there in terms of paradise. So not paradise, sorry, in terms of Winter Games. So that's so interesting. Like he hadn't like known of her, like he had seen pictures of her, he had known of her from like the Bachelor franchise or whatever. And so she was someone that he was interested in. And like for Ashley, or for girls like me, quite frankly, a guy like that is so rarely the kind of guy that is lusting after you. And so the way that she used to feel about Jared in those moments, I feel like Kevin was able to replace it in a way, because she was like, oh my God, there's this amazing guy who sees everything about me as a good thing and not as annoying. And he really wants to be with me. And I love that he was really like reassuring to her about like where their relationship was going and everything. Now, Kevin and Ashley, we get a little bit more about them breaking up, because basically what ends up happening is within a few months, we hear that the relationship has run its course and they have broken up. So in People magazine, sorry, this isn't from Kevin, this is from Ashley. She says that it sounds a little harsh, but there was just like a lack of magic. We got along very well. It's just that there was a little something missing and you can't really pinpoint what it is. It's just how I feel. And this is what she said on the Ben and Ashley I Almost Famous podcast, which is a podcast that she hosts with Ben Higgins from The Bachelor. So Wendt also affirmed her feelings by saying, I feel like that's normal. And I feel like you just get those connections all the time. If you were to take away our outside world to just put Ashley and me on an island together, we'd probably get along really well. And that's what Vermont was. When Higgins asked Kevin if he too was feeling that lack of spark also with Iaconetti, he shared, I'm very hard at giving up on things. And I'm not saying that we gave up on it. I'm saying I was still ready to come there again. And I know her birthday. I wanted to be there when I had to work. And I was planning on coming out there that week, or she was going to come here. I knew we definitely had an uphill battle. I wasn't 100% in yet, but I also knew I wanted to see her again. He also added, but now that a few days have passed and we both have kind of collected our thoughts and emotions and stuff, I know she made the right call, and I know that this is the way that it should be. He also mentioned that he feels like he got friend zoned. And he said, like, Ashley, you friend zoned me, with a laugh. But he says, but I'm okay. I think the more I process it and the more I've kept it to kind of myself. I kind of don't want any comments getting out there without us doing this, referencing the podcast. I want the best things for Ashley. I just don't think the spark was fully ignited by the time we had conversations, but I respected her for at least doing it earlier on. We could have done 2 or 3 more trips and then it just would have kind of dragged out. So it's all good. It makes sense. Despite the split, Ashley said that her exes, or that she and him being exes, are on friendly terms, and they chose to openly speak about their breakup because what she wanted was to prevent everybody having like a personal interpretation and from social media picking it apart. She said, I just didn't want people to make assumptions. Since filming wrapped, Ashley and Kevin were intentional about making their relationship work, including a lot of FaceTime calls and a lot of phone calls despite being long distance. And with her birthday, to celebrate her 30th birthday, Kevin had posted a photo of Ashley on Instagram with a sweet caption that said, she has so many incredible qualities I'm learning about each day. He began, there is a reason that she has so many friends and people around her that love her. She's the most driven, motivating, and supportive person I know. She motivates me to be more smart, sweet, sexy, and it's her birthday tomorrow, continued Wendt. So go say happy birthday to her. Hashtag 30 looks good. Hashtag campfire and wine. So I thought that that was like really, really cute. I actually remember when he posted that. And I remember like when they were still kind of like playing it coy because the show was still playing out. I remember her at like a soccer game. I remember what she was wearing. I remember her turning around. And I remember in the comments, he had said, good photographer or something like that, right? Meaning like he was the one that took the photo. I thought they had the cutest relationship. But then we get this announcement via chapter 6, which is the story of us. So we're moving on to chapter 6, the story of us, May 22nd, 2018, which was a 45-minute long video that Jared and Ashley I did where they announced that they are officially together. They released this video on May 22nd, 2018. And I remember when this came out, and I remember thinking right before this, like, oh, are they possibly together? Because I had seen them posting a lot of pictures together or posting pictures like in the same vicinity or same venue, but like not together. And then I had heard rumblings that they were actually dating. I'm like, there is no way. That man hates her. There is absolutely no way in hell that those two are together. But then they released the story of us. So basically what they tell us in the story of us was that Jared was on Caitlin's season and he sort of came off as like the sweet, shy guy. Ashley got to attend a live taping of one of Caitlin's dates, and she was really excited to see him there, but he wasn't there. But then she went on Paradise, and he was there, and she was really excited about that. Jared knew that she was interested early on because she kept staring at him in the creepy Ashley way. It's funny because now they're in love, and he's like kissing her hand throughout this entire thing, but the things that he's saying are very creepy, right? She kept staring at me, so I knew she was interested in me. Yep. He said that he didn't think that he could see himself with her because he's only been with girls who are very shy and who aren't very emotional, but he always felt very comfortable with her, though. They had their first date, which was the dune buggy date in Paradise. And he says that he was comfortable, but she says that she wasn't, which is funny because the entire cast, as I had mentioned earlier, had made it come off as though he was the one who was uncomfortable, but it turns out that she was the one who was uncomfortable. And then after Paradise, they left in late June 2015. They slowly became friends after the show. She had asked him to do a bachelor charity event, which was hosted at her house. And he actually got to see her in her element for the first time. And that's when he first thought to himself, I'm such an idiot. This girl is so sexy and sweet. They hung out with her whole family there, and he got to see her sort of like be a boss bitch and like take charge and see her with her family and with her friends. Throughout the fall, they hung out a bunch, and she was at a Hanson concert, and he texted her that he felt that she's wonderful and that he doesn't tell her that enough and that she deserves so much, and please don't ever change. Like for a guy to text that to you and say, like, you're not told enough that you're amazing and please don't ever change when like she's the kind of girl that you would typically want to change, right? So you have to give her that in terms of like him giving her mixed signals because that's pretty wild. So then she was like, yeah, he likes me. How could he not like me? Look at the things that he's saying. So then she would flirt with him, but not in an aggressive way. They went to a concert together and they made out like really hard. So this is between Bachelor in Paradise season 2 and 3. So we have to keep in mind that they actually did make out. And so again, he's giving her these mixed signals because stuff did actually happen between them. Because when you just watch Bachelor in Paradise seasons 2 and 3 in a vacuum, it looks like she's a fucking psycho. I mean, she is, but still, he was giving her like he was breadcrumbing her, right? He was more than breadcrumbing her. They made out. So every time they had an event in LA, he would stay with her and then he would always extend his trip because he'd want to like spend more time with her. But then he was also like in a confused place and he was being very indecisive. So he didn't feel it was fair to her to keep her in this gray area because he would act like we were only friends and then he would want to allow her to like date other people. But at other times, he'd be sending her like flowers for her birthday. So she would be getting so confused about like what he wanted from her. Then he felt like on Paradise season 3 that they were going to date other people, which made no sense. Ashley came in like a roller coaster, as we know, and he felt clear that he wanted her to move on. And I feel like that did come off pretty clearly in season 3. But there was that thing before that where she just felt like going into it. I feel like there was definitely a miscommunication going in to season 3 for sure. They were friends after that. And then he started worrying that if they crossed the line, he'd lose her as a friend. Because at this point, he felt like, you know, we've established such like a serious friendship that I don't know what I'd do if you weren't in my life at all, right? His mom would constantly tell him, like, you're not going to find anyone better than Ashley. And he's like, I know, mom, I know. So he got the opportunity to do Bachelor Winter Games, but it just didn't end up working out. So he didn't do that. But he went to do Bachelor in Paradise in Australia when Ashley went to do Winter Games. So he was actually on a date in Paradise and he thought to himself, I wish Ashley was here. Wild. So then he heard that she met someone on Winter Games. They didn't really talk much. They exchanged like happy holidays over the holidays. Then the next time that they saw each other was in real life on this trip to St. Lucia that they had planned a really long time ago with Jade and Tanner. And this was before Winter Games. Kevin was even possibly supposed to come, but it didn't really make sense because they were supposed to be hiding their relationship because the show hadn't aired. Then Jared had forgotten his passport. So he was only able to go for a day. It was like this whole screwed up schedule. And he just felt like he had to go because he felt like, I have to tell her how I really feel. He felt like I feel like an asshole for feeling these feelings now and for wanting to tell her this now, but I sort of can't go on knowing that she'll never know how I truly felt about her. So he decides to go and he decides to tell her this in person. So they're walking through the water together in St. Lucia. She tells him about Winter Games. He admits to being jealous and he admits that he has feelings for her. She tells him that, you know what, I'm still going to date Kevin. I want to see where it goes. I want to see it through. And then before the end of the trip, before they leave to go home, he turns Ashley around and he kisses her. And it was a good kiss. He spends the next few months deciding to try to show her how much of a priority that she was. And even though he knew that she was going to keep dating Kevin and he wanted her to keep dating Kevin, he also wanted to show her who he could really be. Because I feel like at the end of the day, he hadn't been, right? And he wanted to take this time to really do that. So it was awkward watching the Winter Games in January and February, especially because she realized that she and Kevin weren't meant to be and the relationship had just sort of run its course. And then after that, her and Jared basically started being together and he wrote her a letter that was long overdue. I'm not going to read it to you guys, but it's actually very beautiful and sentimental and it's wild. And something that I just want to say about this in general before we move on, it's just like, I remember when this happened, I remember thinking to myself, How crazy is it to keep on keeping on about a guy who is not into you? He's just not that into you. There's a whole movie about it, right? How crazy is it to keep on keeping on about a guy who's not into you and then have him eventually change his mind? And it made me kind of like stop dead in my tracks and think, should I have maybe with that last guy, could I have? What about with so and so? Like, it made me question like some of my choices. Maybe if I had just hung around longer, maybe if I just stalked him a little harder, right? Like it just because something like this just doesn't happen in real life, right? You never get the guy that told you no a million times. That just doesn't happen. So you also have to sort of be impressed with what Ashley has been able to accomplish, which is another reason why I wanted to do a Be True Hollywood story on her today, because it is just very wild to think that after a guy has told you no this many times, he becomes your husband, right? Now, let's just finish up talking about what Kevin had to end up saying at the end of this, because I feel like after they broke up, he got pissed a little bit because I feel like he started to get more information. Like, for example, he did not know that Jared and Ashley talked in St. Lucia. He obviously knew about the trip, but he didn't know that she and Jared talked and did not know that they kissed. So he's like, she cheated on me. And when this got back to Ashley, because Ashley had said in her this video, the story of us, like, I never cheated on Kevin. He's like, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. And so she was like, okay, I mean, if he considers that kiss cheating, then I'll consider it cheating and I did something wrong. But, you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. But he is right. I mean, it was cheating. I don't think that like she was expecting Jared to kiss her. It was just sort of one of those things. And then she did continue to date him after. But technically speaking, there was cheating. He did say on the Off the Vine podcast, which is Caitlin Bristow's podcast, he did that podcast on July 10th, 2018. And the story of us came out on May 22nd, 2018. In between that, Kevin did another season of Bachelor in Paradise where he met Astrid Locke, who ended up moving to Canada for him, and now they live here together and are married and have two kids, I believe. But Ashley and Jared actually ended up coming back for that season, and Jared ended up proposing to Ashley on the beach in front of Kevin. So that sucks. That was in June 2018. That was so about a month before this, and that's kind of hard, right? That's a little bit of a bitch. I remember him needing some space during that moment, even though he was really good and happy with Astrid. It was still just kind of like a moment. But he said when it comes to Ashley that he wasn't really sure where they were going to go. He knew that he was never going to move to LA. He couldn't see her in Toronto, but he wanted to play it out until it all aired. And that's something that Ashley wanted. So he kind of implied, unless I was misunderstanding this, I think he was implying that Ashley said to him, like, hey, can we keep this relationship going until it's all aired, all said and done, the reunion airs, all of that. Just because I don't want there to be like any issues. And he says, well, because I respect women, I wanted to, you know, play that out for her, but it wasn't love. I think he did really like her, which again, I feel like is impossible, but like, I feel like he did really like her and he did love her. And I feel like he was really hurt by the fact that she broke up with him because I feel like the fact that he was putting so much effort into the relationship, the reassurance, all of that. I mean, I feel like it says a lot. And I feel like the little digs that he made after the fact about like it not being love or I don't know, just some of the other little digs that he's made, I just feel like show that he's a little butthurt. Um, but I do believe that she lost her virginity to him, not in the fantasy suite, but definitely lost her virginity to him. And that's it on on them. Let's move on to chapter 7, married mom life. So, as I said, Jared proposed to Ashley with a 2.4 carat diamond and platinum ring designed by Neil Lane, with diamonds decorating the band, according to People, on the beach in front of everyone, in front of her ex, Kevin. And she ended up sharing this in a post on Instagram in September 2024. They ended up getting married on August 11th, 2019 at Rosecliff Mansion in Newport, Rhode Island. And we're all the way back in Rhode Island, right? We're back to where we started. Now, Jared is actually from Rhode Island. So that is actually why they live here. But that sort of gives that explanation as to why they got married in Rhode Island and why we are seeing her on The Real Housewives of Rhode Island. So actually, Ashley ended up actually wearing two different gowns throughout the evening of her wedding. She wore a lace ball gown by Ines DeSanto to walk down the aisle, and then a super feminine and romantic satin gown from Aline by Rita Venieris for her dress number two. So Ashley and Jared have two kids. They have their son, Dawson Dimitri Habon, who was born on January 31st, 2022. Now, Ashley actually had a gender disappointment when it came to Dawson. She admitted this on an August 18th episode of the podcast Ben and Ashley I Almost Famous, that when she welcomed her son last January with Jared, she had some of those feelings. But once she gave birth, those feelings faded and they started planning for baby number two. But if you know Ashley, and I feel like by this point you do, she is so meant to have a girl and she's so meant to be a girl mom. So I can so understand why it would be difficult to like be having a boy as like your first baby. But now she's like, I'd be happy if we had a boy too. Then I'd want them to have like that brother bond, right? So then they announced the birth of their second son, Hayden, in July 2024. And so they have the two boys. They live in Rhode Island because that's where his family is from. Some fun, interesting facts about Ashley while she was pregnant. She had the desire to eat detergent while she was pregnant, which is a very weird craving. And she also opened up about how SSRIs helped her so much during her pregnancy. I'm just going to read this quick article. This is from like bachelornation.com. It says, keeping it real, as Bachelor Nation fans know, Jared Habon and Ashley Iaconetti Habon first met on season 2 of Bachelor in Paradise in 2015. The two got engaged on season 5 of Bachelor in Paradise and tied the knot in August 2019. Since then, they've welcomed son Dawson into their lives in 2022 and their second son Hayden last year. Throughout both of her pregnancies, Ashley was extremely candid and open with her followers about the highs and lows of the experience. Now she's opening up more in an Instagram Q&A about her mental health during her pregnancy and what helped her take care of herself. Ashley said, I've been on a low dose SSRI for a long time, like pre-Bachelor, for anxiety and mild OCD. I know this helped me postpartum, and it must have helped me when I had hyperdermesis gravidium with Dawson. The mom of two went on to say, I also think not breastfeeding helped me personally in this period of life. I don't think I could have added something so demanding on my plate, and it felt so good postpartum both times. This being said, I have intrusive thoughts about my children and find myself having increased OCD tendencies leading up to flights and such. They're not life-altering, and I assume it's pretty normal. During the Q&A, Ashley also revealed what she and Jared fight about, sharing the 3 points of contention in their relationship. She said, kid discipline, Jared's not tough enough, but I'm extremely soft. I didn't know I would be this sensitive. When Jared's frustrated, he'll drop F-bombs, not directed at me or anyone in particular. I don't know how harsh it is to make, I don't like how harsh it makes things sound, and it usually escalates the issue. Ashley went on saying, I don't know if it's the Italian side of the family or the daughter-centric household or what, but my family kind of yells at each other. We sound angsty, but we don't really realize or take offense. I have rolled this over to the way I talk to Jared sometimes, and it's not appreciated. He's much more polite than I am. That's very true. I mean, Ashley is definitely like a feistier type of personality than Jared is, so that makes a lot of sense. So something else that Ashley mentioned in that article briefly that I want to get into a bit more is how she actually decided not to breastfeed after her kids because she wanted to get her body back. So I just want to read a piece of an article where she had mentioned that. She said, like when she welcomed Dawson, Iaconetti isn't planning on breastfeeding Hayden. I've decided to just not breastfeed for both kids, just for the sake of me thinking I'm going to be the best version of myself for them by just not adding that extra pressure on myself. So we formula feed with Bobby, and it's been going great with them. And I don't even know how I would have kept up with this kid with the feeding if I was breastfeeding because he eats every hour, she jokes. Every hour. I was like, are you kidding me? I was very worried. I was like, am I overfeeding you? But according to the internet and the doctor, he's okay. So I just thought that was really interesting. And there was a little bit more that I had read about it in terms of like her opinions on it, but it had more to do with, you know, my body has been my son's home for the past 9 months and it's been all about him. But now I don't want to continue to use it as something for him. I want it to go back to being something for me. And I feel like that made a lot of sense. Something else I heard her talk a lot about is feeling lonely while Jared has been working at this coffee shop. So Jared has opened up this coffee shop called Audrey's in Rhode Island. So this is basically like their like family business sort of. And she's talked about how it's kind of become sometimes like a lonely sort of endeavor for her because they're opening up a new business, which obviously means like long hours, especially when it's in like the food industry. She's at home with the kid, and I couldn't exactly find the post, but this is how much knowledge I just have about Ashley I that I remember it being posted. I remember it being said. I just can't necessarily find the evidence of it in all cases, but I did find her talking about how there is like a loneliness that comes with being a new mom and with being in a new place because Rhode Island is not where she's from. That is where Jared is from. So it's created sort of, a disconnect for her. And I'm curious whether the Real Housewives of Rhode Island has changed that for her at all, because now she will have a group of friends, allegedly, to kind of hang out with when Jared is gone for these like long days and long nights, opening up this business, right? You kind of think that these people after The Bachelor go on and become like rich and famous and all of these things, but they went back to regular life, tried to open a business, and that's a really difficult thing to do. And it takes a toll on marriages, right? We've seen that with Tom's, right? On Vanderpump Rules. So obviously, we just talked about how a new business can be a burden on a family and on a relationship, but we haven't really delved too deep into that. So I was able to find some things on Reddit regarding Ashley and Jared's relationship and that it may not be as perfect as they make it seem. So somebody said on Reddit 2 years ago, I feel bad for Ashley I. And they wrote, obviously, I don't know their relationship at all, but from listening to Suckers, all Jared does is complain about how their relationship isn't romantic anymore and how Dawson only cares about Ashley, and it's depressing. I feel like he's constantly complaining about Ashley and not building her up at all on the podcast. And he wouldn't even participate in her Girl Scout cookie taste test on Instagram, literally saying that he was going to sabotage it. I hope that in their personal life, he's a lot nicer to her because she seems like she loves him so much. And then 3 years ago, somebody wrote this really long post about the I Don't Get It podcast. So I'm going to read this, even though it's really, really long, it gives us a lot more insight into, I guess, Ashley's mental state at this point in time. So it says, did anybody catch Ashley I's I Don't Get It podcast called Mommy Meltdown from a few weeks ago? She is generally open and vulnerable about her feelings, but even so, I was very surprised by how much she shared about her mental state right now. I recapped it here so you don't have to take the time to listen if you don't really want to. I don't typically do recaps, so this not be very well written. Ashley starts off the podcast by crying hysterically. She says she feels so overspread, overstressed, and doesn't know what to do with herself. She just can't get anything done and doesn't know what to do. She said she feels like a horrible mom because whenever she's with Dawson, and she always needs to feel like she's doing something else, and she can't ever enjoy her time with him, and she can never enjoy any time of her life. She said that she feels sad because there's so much of her day that she's not happy around Dawson. One of her co-hosts, Naz, asked if Ashley needs to cut out something or if she just needs more help with Dawson. Ashley says that she doesn't know. Dawson has been so hard the last couple of weeks. She only has 6 hours a day to get everything she needs to get done, but really needs 12 hours to get it all done. Ashley likes what she does, social media stuff, and wants to do a good job. Then she asks if she can bring Jared on to talk a little bit. She calls Jared over. Ashley says she's sad because she never has family time with Dawson. Whenever they have time with him, one of them needs to hold Dawson while the other one is trying to get something done. They can never just sit in a circle and play with him. Then she starts crying hysterically again. Her other co-host, her sister Lauren, says this is the hardest that she's ever seen Ashley cry, and it's not even with laughs in between. Ashley says Dawson just doesn't stop crying, and it makes her feel sad because she doesn't know why he is crying so much. Jared comes on and asks how he's doing. He says, fine. Then he says there's been a lot of stress and anxiety in the house the last couple of weeks, and it's been tough, and he feels really bad for Ashley. Audrey's is really time consuming for Jared because he's there a lot. Audrey's is the coffee shop. Jared says that he spends multiple hours doing social media and podcasting. He says he spends 70 to 80 hours a week, either at Audrey's or doing owner stuff for Audrey's. Then one day a week, he spends filming content, but that's every day for Ashley. Because much of Jared's time is consumed with Audrey's and other stuff, Ashley deals with Dawson more than Jared. Dawson is going through a phase now. He cries a lot, requires a lot of attention, not the baby that will be content to sit in a playpen for a long time. Jared says that they give him a lot of attention and love him so much, so Dawson knows that if he cries, they go to him. They spend some time debating whether they should let him cry or not. Dawson hasn't been sleeping at all. He's so sleep deprived and it affects his daytime sleep, which in turn affects his nighttime sleep. Ashley said that when Jared is gone, she moves Dawson from place to place where he's content for about 10 minutes, and then she needs to move him again. Jared said that Ashley is not a stay at home mom, and while they do have a nanny, Ashley can't take the time with Dawson when he's with the nanny for herself. She needs that time to film social media content. They don't spend a lot of quality time together as a family. Ashley says that even when Jared is home, it's not fun. He spends time with Dawson in the morning to let Ashley sleep in, and then does social media stuff, and then goes to work at Audrey's and is there till about midnight. Jared says that he has been that there's been constant tension in the house, and Ashley clarifies it's not between them, just that they're frustrated and they don't know how to solve their issues. Naz says that she does not have a child, so she can't really imagine fully what it's like, but suggests that they sit down and have an audit and prioritize what means the most to them. Maybe put their phones away Sunday for 3 hours. Says the key to life is learning how to say no, prioritize their mental health. Ashley says they talk all the time about what they need to do and to cut that middle area out, and that Jared very much knows what it is. Ashley says that Jared should not be scheduled at work. He should just be an owner and not a worker there. Jared says that it's not the greatest time for small businesses right now, and a box of romaine lettuce is over $100. Jared says that he is seeing the business lose money, but they also don't know how much longer social media is going to last. They're so dependent on social media and being in the entertainment industry. He thinks about if he stops investing so much into Audrey's, is it going to fail? If Audrey's fails, he fails. He's invested so much time and money into it, and he wants to make it succeed. But the entertainment social media stuff also has a timeline, and nothing is ever guaranteed. Naz then says, what if social media goes away? And that's the best thing that's ever happened to you guys. Jared says they just need to talk about how to fix things. Ashley says they know how to fix it. Hire a cook in the back for Audrey's. Lauren says give things a little test run. See what happens after 30 days. If Jared doesn't schedule himself for work at Audrey's, maybe the place will be afloat and fine. Jared says, I agree. Naz says she wants to validate Jared's feelings because she knows it's very hard to let go when you have a vision for something. But Naz thinks letting go and trusting is important. Jared says that he does trust people, but he knows he does the job better and the restaurant will be better off because he is doing it there. I'm very much the same way. Jared can do things that nobody else simply can because he owns the place and people view him differently. There's a difference between a manager and an owner running things at the restaurant. Naz says, yeah, but at what cost? If you're exhausted all the time, you're bringing that energy to Audrey's. Jared said, yes, but the problem is that they have two of the most significant events in their life happening simultaneously, which is opening a business and having a kid. Dawson is amazing and they love him so much, but he requires a lot and puts a lot of strain on both of them. Says it's not a coincidence that a lot of moms look tired as hell. Naz says that maybe they need a full-time nanny, but they also say that they do have that now. They're at almost 40 hours of nanny time a week now. They say that they want to hire more people at Audrey's and that they also are paying for a nanny and a social media person, and you get close to whether it's financially worth it or not. Ashley says that they're super blessed that they have a nanny that can come to the house while they're there. The whole it takes a village thing isn't said enough. Raising a child is the hardest gig. Ashley says that she doesn't want to keep saying that Dawson is so hard, but seriously, he is so hard. They talk to people who have kids the same age, who say their kids are sleeping 7 to 7 and they're floored. They see their niece Nora, who is 3 months older than Dawson, who can sit at a table and chill for 2 hours. Dawson, by contrast, is all over the place, screaming. They have to take turns walking him around. They ask, is this our fault? Lauren says it's amazing how different babies can be. Ashley says that she sees people who are ready to raise their second kid within the first year, and she wonders if she's not equipped for this. She asks if she's bad at this, and she wasn't supposed to do this. Naz says that she won't let her go down the shame road. She acknowledges and validates Ashley, but says that it's not true. All Naz's friends that have kids feel this way. They're exhausted and miss their old life sometimes, and it's okay to feel this way. Ashley says her mom kept telling her that her life would be so much better after she had a kid, but Ashley didn't feel like her life is a whole lot better. She said that she would kill herself if Dawson were to die, but that's how much she loves him, and she never wants to go back to that part of her life without him, but she doesn't feel happier. She feels overwhelmed constantly. She feels like she's not wired properly. Lauren says that she wishes every baby in the world was taken care of as well as Dawson is. She says that Ashley is not doing anything wrong. Dawson is just a little star who needs attention all the time. Naz says that Ashley is a beacon of light and a ball of love to everyone, so imagine having her as a mom. So jealous of Dawson for that reason. Dawson is lucky to have her. It's a matter of letting go of the resistance, except that she has a hard baby right now and a husband that's managing a small business, but know that it's temporary and they're getting through it together. She and Jared aren't splitting apart. Her kid isn't unhealthy. Her kid doesn't hate her. Just release the resistance. Take the little wins day by day. Ashley says, this is really dumb, but Instagram Reels have added a whole layer of production on top. Lauren says that's when she feels that Ashley's stress levels change when Instagram added Reels. Ashley says you need to do a whole mini movie now, and they always want you to go above and beyond. That's her nature. Jared loves editing and smiles at his computer when he does it. Ashley says that she really needs someone in the kitchen at Audrey's to help them. And she says, calling all people in Rhode Island who want to work in a kitchen who need help back there. We need help back there. Ashley says that Dawson is sleeping right now and he has a little cold. Naz and Lauren say that's probably why he's been especially difficult the last few weeks. Ashley says she just really wants to watch TV and put her phone away. When she's watching TV in the background or scrolling while watching, she realizes that she's not relaxing during this. Naz says that she just went to Kauai for 5 days and shut her phone off and unplugged. She says that Ashley should maybe do this and maybe do a morning walk for 20 minutes. Ashley says that she personally doesn't want to villainize social media and she does really enjoy it, but there is something about the mindless scrolling that is so much different than different kinds of screen time. Screen time on the TV is different than scrolling on your phone, which is why she wants to watch more TV without scrolling at the same time. Ashley says that she doesn't enjoy being in Rhode Island at the moment because it's brutally cold. Ashley says that she's been having the nannies come at 1-ish after Dawson's nap because she doesn't want to spend money for them to come when he's napping. But now she thinks that for her mental health, it might be better for the nannies to come in the morning. She could get ready, brush her teeth, shower, do her makeup, and get things done. Naz says that for the first hour when you wake up, it's so important because you're resetting your energy from the night before. Ashley says that the problem is she gets so many texts in the morning about what she'll need to do that day and has to tell herself that she'll do it when the nanny comes. And then it gets to be really long. It gets to be a really long list that builds and festers, which is why it might be better for the nanny to come in the morning so that she can get a start on the day. Naz says you got to be realistic with what you can get done. Yada, 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 just more where they're just telling her that you're an amazing mom and you're going to be okay. But I think that it does give us a lot more perspective as to what was going on in Ashley and Jared's relationship. I think it makes a lot of sense because not only are you moving to a place that you're not used to living, you're starting a business, you're doing it alone. COVID is happening. You're raising a kid for the first time. You're dealing with a difficult kid. So I'm curious what that means in terms of them doing the Real Housewives of Rhode Island, because, this is a whole new show for them. It's a whole new pressure. And I wonder if this is a good thing or a bad thing, right? Like, I do think it's a good thing, possibly for Ashley, if the women on this show are her friends, because it sort of gives her that outlet and to be able to speak to other moms about going through the same sort of thing. So it could be really great in that way. But they always say about housewife shows that women either go on them to get divorced or to fix their marriages. So who knows exactly what's going to happen with Ashley and Jared, but that's sort of sad to hear that after everything that they've gone through, that this is sort of where they are. But that being said, I think it's very normal for them to have gone through some difficult times in their marriage and in their family and in child rearing. I think that's just very normal. And the fact that this is what I'm reading on the internet is because this is just the only time that they've happened to have put that out there. It doesn't mean that they're in a bad place. It just means when they were in a bad place, it showed up on the internet. Okay, let's move on to chapter 8, which are Ashley's thoughts on the Taylor Frankie Paul of it all. So recently, Page 6 caught up with Ashley Iaconetti on a red carpet and got her opinion on it because, listen, this is something that is very recent going on with Taylor Frankie Paul. Ashley is from the Bachelor Nation franchise, so it makes sense to get her opinion on it. And Ashley told Page 6, I hope the best for the franchise, and I hope that Taylor gets the support and help that she needs to get in a good place. But yeah, I agree with the decision for ABC to not go forward with the season at the time. It just didn't seem like the appropriate thing to do. Iaconetti also addressed the fan ideas and rumors floating around regarding what ABC could do to fill the Sunday night slot. Some have brought up an all-star season of Dancing with the Stars, while others have suggested an entirely new Bachelorette season with Traitors alum Maura Higgins. And Ashley said, I say, let's bring in Maura Higgins. Let's do it live. I want it to be like a docuseries style. Be like, we're going to be live recording Maura on a date, she suggested. And then at the end of it, then she's going to have to pick from 3 guys or something like that. I don't know. Make it totally unconventional. Just have the franchise on TV. That's all I want. As for whether she thinks there's a chance for Taylor Frankie Paul's season to ever see the light of day, Ashley said, I think a lot of people would just watch it if they put it on Hulu. If they put it in a binge form, it would be interesting just to see how fans take the binge, Iaconetti explained, which is interesting because we've never seen that with the Bachelor franchise. She said it would work in the advertiser's sense a little bit better than having it on ABC. It's just a hard thing. It's icky. And it's also like, but we knew what they were getting into. There were just so many thoughts that I have, and obviously the video is awful, but I'm honestly open to all ideas. And the season just staying away, it's also totally a fine option as well. So you can see how smart she is. She even understands the whole like advertising perspective of the whole thing, right? I mean, we're not going to get into our thoughts on the Taylor Frankie Paul of it all because I feel like we have discussed that to death, but it was interesting to hear Ashley's thoughts as well. All right, our last chapter is chapter 9, Ashley's career. So as I mentioned, she went to school for broadcast journalism, and when she went on The Bachelor, she was a freelance journalist. So some of the other things that she's done in terms of career endeavors are being a social media influencer, the host of the Ben and Ashley I Almost Famous podcast, and the I Don't Get It podcast, which is the one with her sister and Naz Perez. She also used to host the podcast Help I Suck at Dating with Dean Unglert, who is now married. She is the co-owner with Jared of Audrey's Coffee House and Lounge in South Kingston, Rhode Island. She was also a correspondent for Access Hollywood and Clever TV, and she was a contributor to Cosmopolitan. And she also apparently starred in 2 episodes of Stars on Mars, which was a show that I watched. Well, I watched it up until a certain point. I watched until Schwartz was gone, but I didn't see Ashley on that. I need to go back and watch because I love me some Ashley Iaconetti on TV. I love watching her cry. So I don't know how I missed it. I absolutely don't, but here we are, right? All right, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed the episode. I hope you now know everything that you need to know about Ashley Iaconetti in advance for tonight's premiere episode of The Real Housewives of Rhode Island. Until you guys hear from me next time, you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and my Facebook page. And I love you, BBs. I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator podcast. For more content, head over to patreon.com/The Bravo Investigator podcast. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.